All right, so what I'm going to try to do now is walk you through some of the different types of connective tissue. So if we zoom in on this one, you can see this would be, in terms of loose connective tissue, this is connective tissue proper. This would be that loose connective tissue. This is areolar connective tissue. So again, you can see a lot of background space on this one. You can see these different purple and pink kind of fibers running through there. Those would be purple are actually elastic and pink are the collagen fibers respectively. Again, gives you a good idea of what you're looking at on these ones. So we can zoom in on that a little bit more on this. So again, you can see a little bit better on this one now. The space, purple, pink fibers right here. So that's areolar connective tissue, one of the types of that connective tissue proper, the loose connective tissue. Another one on there was reticular tissue. So if we take a look at this one, and now we're going to zoom in on it a bit. With this reticular tissue, we'll move it just a bit here. With the reticular tissue, you can generally see here cells, and then you have these darker fibers that are in between all these different cells. Those darker fibers in between there are those coated tissue, coated collagen fibers that make up reticular tissue. We usually see this on things like lymph nodes, the spleen. Again, another one of the different types of loose connective tissue. Alright, let's see if we can find it in here. So I'm hoping on this one we'll have it down at the bottom here. That's the skin, so if you go a little bit deeper, you can see this little area right here. If we zoom in on that particular area, this is our third type of loose connective tissue. So these are adipose tissue or adipocytes. So again, you can see on these ones cytoplasm along the surface here, nuclei out to the edge. What doesn't stain well on any of these ones is those lipids. So again, showing you that fatty tissue, this adipose tissue. So those would be your three different types of loose connective tissues. You have the reticular, the areolar, and adipose tissue. If we look at some of the other ones here, that dense regular versus dense irregular, if we zoom out a little bit on this slide, we should be able to find some of that dense irregular, excuse me. So if we work our way up right here, and you can probably see it right in there. So if we zoom in on that a little bit, see all these, and sometimes they sound more pink. This one's not quite as pink as the other ones, but you can see all these little areas, it's fibers kind of running in all different directions. This is that dense irregular connective tissue. You see it underlying the skin. It makes up capsules of a lot of different things. Again, the main thing you see with dense connective tissue, lots of fibers, not a lot of space, and you can see a few cells spaced out in between here. This would be that dense irregular with them going in different directions. If we look at a tendon, we can actually see the dense regular. So, and in the case of the tendon here, I just want to make sure I'm on a good spot. So you can see on the case of the tendon here, you can see there is a lot of these fibers all running in the same directions. So this would be that dense regular connective tissue. Again, you see lots of collagen fibers, not a lot of space in there, and you don't see a lot of cells in between any of these ones. The other thing we don't see on this one is a lot of blood vessels. Again, tendons, ligaments are the main spot. You see this, dense irregular, the other type, mainly underlying the skin, and capsules are surrounding different organs. So those would be, to me, all your connective tissue proper types. Outside of that, what we'll look at on the next one here is we'll take a look at the three different types of cartilage and bony tissue, and then maybe as well muscle on that one also. In fact, I think we're short enough on this one right now that what I will do is actually go to bone and cartilage and take a look at some of these ones as well. So to start with, we're just going to go to the trachea again. So if we look at the trachea, and on the trachea, it's actually underlying a lot of this. So as this zooms in on this right here, let me just take it out, just a hint. So you can see this tissue right here. So this would be one edge of it. This is the other. What is in this area right here is that hyaline cartilage. You can see these isogenous groups of chondrocytes trapped in here. There is actually a membrane that surrounds it on both sides, as my mouse is not wanting to do what I want it to. There is stuff on both sides of these right here as well as up here. That is that perichondrium that surrounds this. But again, lots of these cells in little groups here with fibers that are not particularly distinct on the hyaline cartilage. If we then go and look at some of these other ones here, so let's take a look at, and let's see if this one's going to be too dark or not. So it's a little dark on this image. Let me try the epiglottis and see if it's a little bit better. So it is a little bit better on this one. Not quite, it's not staying quite as dark. But if you look at these tissues right here, this is that elastic cartilage. The main thing is with the elastic cartilage, the chondrocyte sizes, they are still in groups, but they tend to be a little bit bigger in their little spaces here. Sometimes you will see some of those elastic fibers traveling through here. Tends to stain more blue or purple on a lot of these ones than the pink. But this would be that elastic cartilage. Again, places you see this would be the epiglottis here. Another good example is the external ear on the first slide we were looking at. So if we go back to this one, you can see this here. Again, see the capsule on both sides of this and that elastic cartilage through the center. Like I said, just a little bit darker than I would like to show it. You don't see it quite as well. You can see it a little bit more right there, but it's staying a little bit dark on this one. So the third type of cartilage is going to be that fibrocartilage. This is one that the fibers are a little bit more prominent. We see this on things like intervertebral discs. And it's really what we're looking at right here. This thing's being rather touchy. So in this one, you tend to get chondrocytes kind of in a row, as you can see on these ones right here. You don't really see them grouped together. You see single chondrocytes out by themselves with a lot of fibers traveling through. The other thing we won't see on this one is you don't see a perichondrium. So if we zoom out here, you can see that there is no capsule surrounding any of this. It just kind of differentiates and changes over to bone as we exit this. But again, all this area through here would be that fibrocartilage. That is that third type of cartilage. And then really the last thing to take a look at on these ones is bone. And to start with here, I just want you to be able to identify ground bone. So on one of these ones, if I show you a slide like this, knowing this is bone, we will, as we get into it, talk about all the structures in here, what these canals are, and all these little concentric rings here. But this is what is called compact bone. Blood vessels normally would be traveling through here. These are all the actual bone cells or osteocytes out in these little circles around here. But for right now, knowing that this is a type of supporting connective tissue and that bone, what it looks like if I was to show you a slide of bone, being able to identify that as bone relative to the different cartilages. So that's really what I'm looking at on these ones. Really the last few things that I probably will show you, and I probably do a separate one here. I'll show you a little bit of just what blood looks like as the last connective tissue, and then the different muscle types, and I think we'll call it good on the different videos here for these different tissue types.